I'm here with Poko in a new dress, seemingly also already like adjusted the lighting to the new colors.
Yeah, I have. That's a good color. I like it, so I'm gonna stick with it for now on.
Right. How are you in this off season? Like we haven't played any games in a hot minute. Are you bored yet?
A little. I mean, Overwatch hasn't changed that much, so the game is kind of boring to play in rank. But I try to just try to have fun, play different role, try to be ready for what's coming. But yeah, the usual off season.
Right. How did you receive the experimental patch? Did you think that's generally a good idea? And do you think that particular changes were interesting?
Yeah, of course. I mean, every change is good for Overwatch right now because I don't know, they've been working on Overwatch 2 for like so long that Overwatch 1 is kind of dead. So yeah, experimental patch is always a good sign. I think a lot of changes that are made on the experimental part are good ones. And the game is way more fun now, so I think that should be implemented live and everybody should enjoy it.
How did you think about the Diva patch?
It's really strong, so don't touch it. I'm okay with it.
Right. Is the melee damage buff not a little bit over the top, or is it good to use that as to avoid like, absurd stalling situations?
On Diva, you mean, right?
Yeah. As Pilot Diva.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think like all the changes on Diva are like way too much. I don't think they should change her that much because she's already really strong and like if you're like really good at the game, it's easy to make plays. So yeah, like all the changes on Diva are like crazy for everybody.
Right. If the developers were to approach you, would you have some changes in mind you would like to try?
That's actually tough. Like I try to think about it and I'm like, wow, it's a tough job and we are like so harsh on them. Like every time they do a move, we're like, oh my god, that's so stupid or I will never do that. But when you're trying to think about a move that you would like to do, it's like thinking of a new color. You're like, wait, actually, it's so difficult. Like, what am I supposed to do? So, nah, it's not my job. I just play the game and complain. That's it.
Do you think, generally speaking, the game was in a good state of balance this season, though?
Yeah. I mean, tank wise, like every tank was playable except Hog. Maybe it's like a little underwhelming, but it's like it's tough to play Hog when you're playing against good players. But yeah, I feel like the game has everything in it. Maybe some heroes are like too powerful and not really interesting to play against, like Sombra or Brig. But yeah, balance wise, I think the dev did a really good job at balancing every character, and that wasn't an issue to play this season.
Right. Now, of course, you were one of the players that had a couple more complications with the pandemic and traveling and everything and getting the visa. Now, we're interested, how far in advance did you know that your team was going to play in the Asian region?
Not that far actually, because I think everybody was signed in the lineup, and I think I don't have the exact time, but I know that everybody was signed on Fusion, and then we got told, yeah, next season is gonna be in Korea, because they had the T1 facility, right? So that was like less expensive for them, and that was like way better for them. So yeah, we were like kinda, oh really? I mean, we didn't know that when we signed, but we were like okay with it. I mean, as long as everybody could travel, that was like fine, right?
Do you think that's something that you should have known during your contract negotiations?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, everybody was expecting to go back to Philly. Like I left so many boxes that I finally got back, and I left the computer. I left so many stuff. So we are like, oh yeah. I mean, next year we're gonna be in Philly. That's chill. We know the place. We have good apartments already. So yeah, the changes got a little like that was a little weird for us.
Right. Could you walk us a little bit through the rough timeline, what your season looked like? Like you find out that you're going to play in Korea. I suppose you rush to the embassy almost immediately in order to apply for a visa, or how does it go?
No, actually, because the Korean embassy was shut down at the time in France. So I couldn't do anything, and that's not my job to do anything, right? I'm a player, so we have like managers and stuff who take care of that stuff. And we had like a bunch of lawyers who will do the visa situation. So they got all the papers. They tried to like do many visa, like P1 and many stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, I assume it's gonna be like usual. I'm just gonna have to wait a bit, go to the embassy, and then I'm able to fly before the season. But that wasn't like that. Lockdown started in France. France was like really bad at the beginning with COVID cases. Um, so Korea like stopped entrance from French people, and that was the beginning of the nightmare for me because like paperwork wouldn't go forward. They wouldn't let any French people go, and that lasted like the whole season. So that was really bad. Yeah.
Did you like how did it unfold in terms of did you get held up? Like, did you have the interview and you didn't pass that one, or like what was the holdup?
No, we didn't need to do interview. We just sent papers, and I did. And like 2 days, I mean, I sent my papers over there, right? Everything was fine. And then like a week after they received the papers are supposed to be there for like 10 days, and then they send you back your passport, right? But a week after they got my papers, everything shut down. So I got my passport over there for like 5 or 6 months, and I couldn't do anything. And they were like, I mean, we were like waiting for the embassy to open again because we were like the first one to get our visa back, right? But I don't know, that just never happened. So yeah.
Yeah. Would you have not had that issue if you were to stay in the US? Because we know, like from the Boston uprising situation with Soon, he was kind of stuck there, right? Like, and was therefore let go eventually.
Yeah. That was also difficult to get US visa, but I already had one for this year because they expected us to be playing in Philly, so they were like, oh, okay, we're gonna get you a 2-year P1 visa. So that would have been easy for me. I would have just take my flight and work there.
Right. Now, could you explain your experience from a player point of view? How did you were you able to like sit on scrims? Did you get feedback, or what was your day-to-day like during that season?
At the beginning of the season, when we didn't know that I couldn't have a visa, I was like, we were like playing on European server, right? With all the Korean, they were waking up at like 4, 5 in the morning, so that was awful for them because of the time zone. But we still had to practice, even though we knew we were going to be late. We still had to give our best and try. So I was playing at the beginning, and then I mean, the lawyers couldn't figure out a way for me to go to Korea in time and for Funny Astro. So Roston told me, we're gonna sign Hotba and Toby. And I was like, that was like a bad moment for me because I was like, oh shit, it's actually happening. I'm not gonna be there in time. So it's gonna be tough for me to go in Korea, practice with the team, and fight for my chance to be in the starting roster, right? Because everybody is already set up and stuff, so it's gonna be hard. So I still gave my best. Like even though I wasn't playing anymore, I was looking at the screen and trying to give advice. But I mean, we had already amazing coaches with 9K, Chris, and Moby. So there is not much I can do, especially when I'm not in Korea with the players. Like it's so difficult. I feel like I'm not the right one to go to Otba and be like, oh, there maybe you could have done this, because maybe the coaches told him something before, so that would have messed up the whole thing. Like even though I was watching everything, there is like so many talks that you need to be with the team to have like to understand everything that is going in the game. So yeah, that was a tough time for me as a player not to play with the team.
Right. Now, I mean, eventually, like you almost had to restructure the entire squad. Do you still have like an intuitive feeling how well your season would have went? Let's say everyone from the European guys gets into Korea, no problem, and you guys can really practice together. Did you feel like this was a special squad?
We had a terrible time when we were like practicing in Europe. Like we were losing to everybody. Like mental was like shut down. I don't know, everything was going on, to be fair. Like practice was bad. Everybody was like so tired. So that's tough to say. I mean, I believe in my ability to be like one of the top tank in the league. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because I haven't played like a whole season. But I mean, I still believe in myself. I know that I would have done great, especially with like 9K coaching. He's like his game style is a lot on is relying a lot on the off tank, doing a lot of communication and creating space and damage and everything. So he was coaching me a lot at the beginning of the season. And I mean, 9K had coach Hanbin and Choyobin. So I was the only off tank, and he had really high hopes on me. And yeah, the fact that I couldn't play was like a big issue for me.
Right. Now you had some great coaches over the years in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
How does 9K style differ from like someone like KDG, let's say?
I mean, yeah, like I said, he was like really heavy pushing on the tanks, doing a lot. So Mano and me were like getting a lot of coaching from him. And I mean, it's about everything. 9K is like so good at understanding the game, like a lot of coaches, but he's really good at like putting himself at the player situation, and like he has a really high understanding of what a player can do and can do. And also he's really good mechanically. I mean, like I remember when I wasn't able to play, he was like, yeah, you should send me some VOD and I'm gonna tell you what you should do or should not do. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna send him a Diva VOD where I did nice, right? And he should be like, oh, okay, you did nice. And he told me, yeah, there you should have done that, there you should have done that. And I was like, wow, that's actually so smart. I never thought about that, right? He makes you think the game like in another way. And it's actually so interesting to get coached by 9K, and like he's so smart and so good at the game. It's quite crazy.
Yeah, because a lot of Overwatch League players have like voiced the opinion that a lot of their coaches are just like usually doing team manager duties and don't actually understand the micro, and that's probably on the players to teach themselves. So that was an experience completely different with 9K, or was any other coach you had like this?
I mean, it's, to be fair, like the coaching we had last year was like really, really good. Like Moby was taking care of the support backline, Chris of a bit everything, DPS wise, and 9K tank wise. So I think we had like really good coaching stuff. But yeah, like usually we the players know the game way more than the coaches because we played like 8 hours a day, right? But yeah, I didn't feel like that last year. We could talk to them about some specific stuff, and they will understand and teach us like many stuff. So that was a good coaching stuff, I think.
And that's it for the first part of our interview with Poko. Now, in the second part, we get a little juicy and talk about the offers that he received this offseason, the off-tank role and how it will change coming into Overwatch 2. Of course, why he decided to go with the Spitfire instead of his home country team, the Paris Eternal. The hopes he has for the Spitfire this season. And as always, as we have to with European pro players, the state of European ranked. If you want to stay up to that, once that drops, hit like, subscribe, and the bell notification. All things Overwatch with GGRecon.